My name is Olivia, and at 33 years old, I find myself at a crossroads in my life. I recently started working part-time at a nearby grocery store, a small but significant step that has reignited a sense of purpose within me. My husband Henry and I met at work about 5 years ago, and after a whirlwind romance, we got married 3 years ago. Back then, I was full of dreams and aspirations. I loved my job and looked forward to building a career alongside Henry. However, soon after we tied the knot, Henry insisted that I quit my job to become a full-time homemaker. Reluctantly, I agreed to his request, thinking it would be temporary and that eventually I'd return to the workforce. But as time went on, the days turned into months, and the months turned into years. My desire to work only grew stronger, but Henry was adamant. He believed that a wife's place was at home, taking care of the household, not out in the world pursuing a career. I tried to suppress my feelings and focus on making our home a warm, welcoming place, but deep down, I knew I wasn't being true to myself. After countless conversations and persistent persuasion, Henry finally agreed to let me take on a part-time job. It was a small victory, but it meant the world to me. We had been trying to start a family, but so far we hadn't been blessed with children. I wanted to fill that void, perhaps with a pet. I suggested getting a cat, but Henry, who harbors an intense dislike for cats, immediately shut down the idea. So I gave up on that dream too. Ever since I started working part-time, Henry's attitude toward me has shifted. He's become increasingly critical of everything I do, from the way I manage the house to the meals I prepare. "Did you go to work again today?" he would ask, his tone laced with disapproval. "The house is a mess, and look at those wrinkled clothes." I would try to defend myself, explaining that I cleaned before going to work and that I was keeping up with the laundry, but nothing seemed to satisfy him. "Are you blind?" he'd sneer. "The place is filthy. And why is it always fried chicken? Can't you cook something else for a change?" Even when I prepared his favorite dishes, he found something to complain about. "You're blaming your job for your shortcomings? Don't act so high and mighty. I earn enough for both of us, so just do your chores properly and stop making excuses." His words cut deep, and over time, they began to erode my confidence. It became clear that Henry didn't want me to work because it interfered with his image of what a wife should be. He saw my part-time job as a threat to his authority, a challenge to his role as the breadwinner. And so he took every opportunity to belittle me, using his financial superiority as a weapon to undermine my self-worth. One weekend, we decided to visit his parents, and I hoped that the trip would provide a much-needed break from the tension at home. We drove for hours, finally arriving at his mother's house. She lives alone in the house where Henry grew up. She welcomed us warmly, and we sat down for a nice dinner. But as soon as Henry left to play poker with some old friends, the atmosphere changed. As we did the dishes, his mother's demeanor shifted from calm to stern. I could sense that something was bothering her, but I wasn't prepared for what she was about to say. We sat down with a cup of coffee, and she began, "Olivia, Henry told me you've been working part-time. Why do you need to work when Henry has a good job? It sounds like you're neglecting the house because of it." Her words took me by surprise. I tried to defend myself, explaining that I was managing both the house and my part-time job, but she wasn't convinced. "Henry has told me everything about how poorly you keep the house. Don't lie to me. He's been suffering, coming home to a dirty house and poor meals after a hard day's work. Quit your job and focus on being a proper wife. No one at your workplace would even care if you left." Her words were harsh and judgmental, and I felt crushed. It was clear that she shared Henry's outdated views on marriage, believing that a wife's place was solely in the home. But what hurt the most was knowing that Henry had been talking badly about me behind my back. I had always tried my best to support him, to make our home a place of comfort and warmth, but it seemed that my efforts went unnoticed and unappreciated. For the next few days, I was in a deep state of despair. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal and hurt that had settled in my heart. Then, one evening, I thought of my father. Since my mother passed away, he had been living alone in our family home. I hadn't seen him in a while, and I suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to hear his voice. So, I picked up the phone and called him. The phone rang for what felt like an eternity before he finally picked up. "Olivia, it's been a while. How are you?" he asked, his voice calm but slightly out of breath. "Dad, are you okay? You didn't pick up right away." "I'm fine," he assured me, but then he confessed, "I fell down the stairs recently and hurt my back. I'm moving a bit slowly, but I'll be okay soon." "How are things with you?" I was shocked and worried. My dad had always been so strong and athletic, and the thought of him being injured scared me. He tried to downplay it, but I couldn't shake the concern that settled in my chest. Our family home is old, with steep stairs that could be dangerous for him, especially now that he's injured. That night, as I lay in bed, my mind raced with thoughts of my dad. I realized that I couldn't just stand by and do nothing. I needed to take action to ensure that he was safe and comfortable. And so I made a significant decision. I would build a new, safer house for my dad near where I lived. I had a secret source of income that even Henry didn't know about. My grandfather had left me an apartment building, and I had been saving the rental income for years. With this money, I could build the perfect home for Dad, a place where he could live comfortably and safely. I knew this would be a big and expensive project, so I decided to talk to Henry about it, hoping for his support. To my surprise, he didn't argue. "You know, maybe you're right. A new home might be a good idea at our age," he said. But then, in his typical manner, he added, "Just don't come crying to me if you can't pull it off." Ignoring his condescending tone, I began to plan. I found a reputable construction company and started the process of building the new house. I worked tirelessly to ensure everything was perfect, from the layout to the materials used. Henry didn't seem particularly interested in the details, which suited me just fine. I wanted this to be my project, my way of giving back to my dad after all he had done for me. As the construction progressed, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I was no longer just a homemaker or a part-time worker. I was creating something meaningful, something that would make a real difference in my father's life. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly alive. One day, I went to the bank to withdraw some money for groceries and noticed that $3,000 was missing from our joint account. Alarmed and confused, I knew there was only one person who could have taken it. That evening, I confronted Henry. "Henry, I noticed $3,000 was withdrawn from our account. Do you know anything about this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He shrugged, a smug look on his face. "I gave it to my mom. You're planning to build a house, right? You must be stashing money somewhere. What's the big deal?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Why did you give her the money without asking me? That's for our living expenses." Henry's face twisted with anger. "What do you know about my mom? She needed help, so I gave it to her. I earned that money, so I can do what I want with it. If you don't like it, go make your own money with that part-time job of yours." The argument escalated quickly, but I was done fighting. I couldn't believe how far our relationship had deteriorated. The next day, Henry acted like nothing had happened, but the tension between us was palpable. Finally, the new house was completed. I arranged for a moving company to help my dad with the transition. Everything seemed to be falling into place, and I was excited to see my dad living in a safer, more comfortable home. But then, just 2 weeks before the move, Henry dropped a bombshell. "That house isn't for your dad," he said casually. "I'm giving it to my mom. I have the right to decide who lives there." Stunned, I responded, "That house is for my dad. I built it." But Henry, in his delusion, was adamant. "You could never afford to build a house with your part-time job. I paid for it, so I get to decide." I realized then that he never intended for my dad to live there. He must have agreed to the plan, thinking the house would go to his mother. With no choice left, I revealed the truth about my inheritance and how I had funded the house. Henry's reaction was one of disbelief. "You're lying! You made up this story just to get the house for yourself." But I stood firm. I had the documents to prove it, and there was nothing he could say to refute them. Furious, he stormed out, and I was left alone, contemplating the end of our marriage. The next day, Henry returned with divorce papers. "Sign this and get out," he demanded. "You won't survive on your part-time wages." I was stunned, but not surprised. After everything, it was clear he didn't value our marriage or me. I signed the papers without hesitation and moved in with my dad. He welcomed me with open arms, and we began our new life together in the house I had built. As we settled into our new home, I noticed a moving truck parked outside one day. To my shock, it was Henry and his mother, planning to move in. They didn't seem to understand that I was no longer his wife and had no right to the house. I immediately called the police, and they confirmed that Henry had no legal claim to the property. When Henry and his mother arrived, they were met with the police and told to leave. Henry, now realizing the truth, was left with nowhere to go. He had already given up his apartment and now had to find a new place to live. In the following weeks, I filed a lawsuit against Henry for his abusive behavior during our marriage. I had installed cameras around the house, capturing his verbal abuse and my diligent efforts to maintain our home. With this evidence, I secured a financial settlement, ensuring that I would never have to rely on him again. Henry, now broke and living in a rundown apartment with his mother, was shunned by his colleagues, who finally saw his true character. As for me, I used the settlement money to start a small business selling cat-related products, something I had always dreamed of doing. My business flourished, and my life became peaceful and fulfilling. I also adopted the cat I had always wanted, and my dad's health improved. We even started planning a trip together with our new furry friend, and recently, a kind man who frequently visits my shop has shown an interest in me. We've planned a drive together, and I'm excited to see where this new chapter in my life will lead. As I look back, I realize that the steps I took to protect my dad's well-being ultimately led to my own happiness. I'm ready to embrace the future with hope and joy, knowing that the best is yet to come.